President Trump reportedly is expected not to recertify the Iran nuclear deal tomorrow, and that would kick the matter to Congress, which would then have 60 days to determine a path forward. Ahead of that announcement, the House Foreign Affairs Committee held a hearing today on the threats we're still facing from Iran. Here's a touch of that.
We don't know to what extent Iran is engaged in the complex, but more easily hidden work of designing a nuclear warhead. And that's why clear majorities on this committee and in the House opposed the nuclear deal. Ultimately, however, the Obama administration rammed it through anyway. As flawed as the deal is, I believe we must now enforce the hell out of it.
Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice echoing that sentiment, saying the United States should stay in the deal while it's fixed.
You decertify the deal. I hope that they'll find some way to keep it in place while they try to improve it. And I think that's the strategy that they are trying to carry out here. We've got to focus more on what the Iranians are doing in the Middle East, the trouble that they're making in Yemen or in Syria, but not just to pull out of the deal, which I think would have deleterious effects on our alliances.
Let's bring in Congressman Peter King of New York, a member of the House Homeland Security Committee and the Intelligence Committee. Good to have you, sir. Thank you for being with us. Those are actually two different things. I mean, former Secretary of State Rice is saying, stay in it while you fix it. But Congressman Royce is saying, you know what, enforce the hell out of it. Maybe not mutually exclusive, but they are different.
They are different, and I have a great respect for Ed Royce, but on this one, I'm much closer to Condi Rice. I can understand why the president is going to decertify it, because this is a vitally important agreement, and right now we have no assurances that the Iranians are complying. They basically, the military has said that the IAEA cannot inspect their sites. The IAEA has said that they cannot fully find out what Iran is doing and not doing. We also know the extent to which they are subsidizing and supporting terrorist groups throughout the Middle East and indeed throughout the world. So I think this could be an opportunity. I understand why the president's doing it. I realize it's a close call, but I believe this could back into Congress and we can begin new negotiations, talking about different sanctions and to try to get, to clean this up, because there's no doubt in my mind from what, what you hear is that while Iran may be in some technical compliance, I'm not sure they are, but they are assembling parts which could lead to nuclear weapons. The IAEA is being stiff-armed in some ways. So I think, again, this is an opportunity to get there, have that 60 days in the House and the Senate, and really go forward from there.
So last hour on Outnumbered, one of our guest co-hosts, Jillian Turner, said, what this does, too, is allow the president not to have to keep recertifying this every 90 days. You don't want to get into a position where you're having to do that, but you're going to have to watch Iran closely anyway, because they're firing missiles like a boss.
Yeah, they really are. And again, I think this also sends a signal, to the rest of the world. I know that, the general accepted belief is that the other nations, who signed on to this agreement, that they already have business there, and I realize that, and that they'd be reluctant to go along with us as far as new sanctions. Well, we are the leader of the free world. And that's why this has to be coordinated. You have to be coordinated between the White House and the Congress, that any action we do take, we're going to be speaking with one voice. And that, I think, can put pressure and influence on our allies, others who are signatories to the agreement, which is why it's important that, again, we speak with one voice. We can't have Congress going in one direction, the president going in another. It has to be a unified effort by the executive and by the House and Senate. So
I want to talk to you about leverage then. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I mentioned this last hour, that there are countries whose companies are already doing business with Iran. And unless you're going to write a big old fat check to those countries, they're probably not going to come on board. So who do we really need to pull across that finish line in terms of that, and what should that look like?
Well, I don't want to start an international moment here, but I would say any of those main countries who are signatories to it, who are allies of us, we have economic pressure too. And as far as we can put our own, if not sanctions, certainly we can say that companies doing business in Iran cannot be doing business with American companies, cannot be getting credit, from American banks. So anyway, this is again all part of the back room type of leverage negotiations that we should be doing. And again, we are in a position of strength. Europe still needs us to some extent. You know, we may need them, but they need us more. And it's important, I think, that we, again, but we have to get unified. We have to all be saying the same thing. We can't have the president saying one thing and having the House and Senate saying something else, or then disagreeing about the tactics we agree on. Whatever we agree on, if we do, it has to then stay consistent and be with one voice.
Are you confident? Because, you know, the American people may be wondering, because you couldn't get certain things done in Congress, are you confident that you will be in unison with this?
You know, we have 60 days to get it done. We have 60 days.
That's a very political answer, sir.
No, listen, again, I don't know. Again, I don't know exactly what the president's going to be looking for. I mean, this is his call in the first place. And then we have to find out what the president is willing to accept, what we feel we can get through. So I'm not being political, I'm being realistic there, because there's so many different competing elements. I want to work with the president. I want to support the president on this. I think Iran definitely got the best of us on the agreement. And to the extent that we can firm it up for us, to the extent we can put more, if not sanctions, at least more observation towers into Iran to find out what's happening here, and to stand with the IAEA and others to see exactly what Iran is doing, and also, to prevent them from getting supplies which may be technically okay under the agreement, but we feel are leading toward a nuclear weapon. We have to, again, work together on that.
Well, that's a great point. Before I let you go, and you touched on it a bit here, but I think it's so valuable to know where we've been, to visit that history. I keep hearing, and even Congressman Royce said this today, given the fact that he's willing to enforce, quote, the hell out of it, we never should have been in this deal. I've heard you say it before. Why?
Because this gave everything to Iran. They got all this incredible amount of cash up front. That is, you know, their economy was going down each day, and that boosted their economy, gave them strength. It opened up new markets for them. It allowed other countries to invest in Iran. And let me also say, Ed Royce is a phenomenal chairman of Foreign Affairs. I don't think we've ever had a better one. So I certainly respect him completely. And I wish Ed Royce had been negotiating this last agreement instead of John Kerry.
All right. Representative Peter King of New York, I appreciate you being on board with your expertise on this, sir. Come back anytime. Thank you.
Okay, and congratulations on the new show.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm very blessed.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.